She took a bullet for his mother. Now Mafia boss, Lorenzo Moretti refuses to let her go. I never believed in fate until the night I bled for a stranger. The Palazzo Vecchio was drowning in gold light and false smiles when I arrived. Chandeliers dripped crystal tears over men in $1,000 suits who'd killed for less than the champagne in their glasses. I didn't belong there. Not really. But invisibility was my currency, and I'd learned to wear expensive dresses like armor. My target that night was Senator Russo, a politician so dirty his shadow left stains. One photograph of him with the wrong woman, and my rent would be paid for 3 months. Simple. Clean. I'd done it 100 times before, but nothing about that night would be simple. I spotted her first, Carmela Moretti. Even if you didn't know the name, you'd know the woman. She moved through that crowd like a queen through her court, silver hair swept into an elegant twist, wearing a black gown that whispered power. 70 years old and more dangerous than half the men in that room. The matriarch, the untouchable. I was adjusting my camera when I saw it. The glint. High up, 3rd floor balcony. The angle was wrong, the shadows too deliberate. My heart stopped before my brain caught up. Sniper. The scope glinted again as it tracked her movement through the crowd. I had 3 seconds, maybe less. Every survival instinct I'd honed screamed at me to stay still, stay hidden, stay alive. This wasn't my fight. These weren't my people. Carmela Moretti had probably ordered deaths before I was born. She didn't need saving, and I certainly didn't need to die for her. But my mother's face flashed through my mind, the way she'd looked in that hospital bed, alone, abandoned by a world that didn't care. And I saw that same grace in Carmela's profile as she laughed at something her companion said, completely unaware. I moved. The world slowed down as I shoved through the crowd, silk and perfume blurring past. Carmela turned toward me, eyes widening in surprise as I collided with her, my hands against her shoulders, pushing her down. The gunshot was a whisper beneath the orchestra. Then fire bloomed in my shoulder, white-hot and absolute. I hit the marble floor hard, the impact stealing my breath. Screams erupted around me like a flock of startled birds. Blood spread across my champagne-colored gown, beautiful and terrible, pooling beneath me in the shape of a rose. Through the chaos, I heard a voice, deep, commanding, cutting through the panic like a blade through silk. Clear the room, now. Footsteps thundered. Strong hands gripped me, turning me over. I blinked through the pain and found myself staring into eyes the color of aged whiskey and winter storms. Lorenzo Moretti. I'd seen photographs, grainy surveillance images that didn't capture the way presence radiated from him, like heat from asphalt in summer. Tall, broader than any suit could hide, with sharp features that looked carved from Carrara marble and just as cold. Dark hair fell across his forehead, disheveled from whatever he'd been doing before his world exploded. But it was his eyes that trapped me. They burned with something I couldn't name, rage, calculation, and beneath it all, something almost like wonder. "Who the hell are you?" His voice was gravel and velvet. I tried to speak, but copper flooded my mouth. Blood. My blood. The ballroom was spinning now, crystal chandeliers becoming stars wheeling overhead. "Nico!" Lorenzo's shout split my skull. Another man appeared, built like a cathedral wall, scarred face twisted in concern. "Get my mother out. Take her to the safe house." "Boss! Go!" Then Lorenzo's hands were on me, pressing against the wound in my shoulder. The pressure sent lightning through my nerves. I gasped, arching against him. "Stay with me," he commanded, and God help me. I obeyed. His face filled my vision, blotting out everything else. "What's your name?" I coughed, tasting pennies. "Does it matter?" Something flickered across his features, almost a smile. It matters. Alara. The word fell from my lips like a confession. Alara Fiore. He repeated it, slowly, as if committing it to memory. Then he lifted me, cradling me against his chest like I weighed nothing. His heartbeat thundered against my ear. Steady, strong, alive. You saved her, he said quietly, mouth close to my hair. My mother. Why? Why? Such a simple question with answers too complicated for a dying woman to explain. Because I'd failed to save my own mother. Because I was tired of being invisible. Because in that split second, something in me recognized something in her. I don't know, I whispered. The lie tasted worse than the blood. As consciousness slipped away like water through my fingers, I heard him speak again, words meant only for me. You took a bullet for my blood. That means something in my world, Alara Fiore. That means everything. His world. I didn't know then what those words would cost me, that by saving one life, I'd surrendered my own. That Lorenzo Moretti didn't just protect what was his. He possessed it, consumed it, kept it locked away where no one else could touch. I didn't know that when I opened my eyes again, I'd be his, and he would never, ever let me go. If you're already hooked by one bullet and a debt that can't be repaid, a quick subscribe keeps the darkness coming. Trust me, you'll want to see how deep this rabbit hole goes. I woke to the sound of waves and the smell of leather. Pain greeted me first, a dull, throbbing ache in my shoulder that pulsed with my heartbeat. I opened my eyes to unfamiliar shadows, high ceilings painted in frescoes of ancient battles, and windows that framed the Tyrrhenian Sea like living paintings. This wasn't a hospital. I tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Fire shot through my shoulder, stealing my breath. A hand pressed gently against my sternum, easing me back down. Don't. That voice again. Lorenzo. The bullet fractured your clavicle. You'll tear the stitches. He sat in a chair beside the bed, shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms roped with muscle and decorated with scars. He looked like he hadn't slept, dark circles beneath those unsettling eyes, jaw shadowed with stubble. Where am I? My voice came out raw, unfamiliar. Somewhere safe. He poured water from a crystal carafe, held the glass to my lips. I drank, hating how vulnerable the gesture made me feel. My private estate, outside Naples. I need to leave. No, just that. No explanation, no negotiation. The word hung in the air between us like a judge's gavel. I pushed his hand away, forcing myself upright despite the agony. I'm not asking permission. Neither am I. Lorenzo stood, and the movement reminded me of a predator rising, all controlled power and coiled danger. You saved my mother's life. That debt isn't something I take lightly. I don't want anything from you. Too late. He moved to the window, silhouetted against the morning sun. Matteo Grimani sent that shooter. He was aiming for the heart of my family, and you stepped into the bullet's path. Do you understand what that means? It means I made a stupid choice. He turned, and something in his expression made my breath catch. It means you're a target now. Grimani doesn't leave witnesses. Everyone in that ballroom saw you save her. To him, that makes you Moretti property. To me... He paused, and the silence stretched like pulled wire. It makes you my responsibility. I'm not anyone's property. In my world, Alara, there are only two categories, protected or prey. He crossed back to the bed, leaning down until his face was inches from mine. Which would you prefer? I should have been terrified. This man was a killer, a king of criminals, someone whose reputation alone could stop hearts. But beneath the fear, something else stirred. Something reckless and hungry that I'd buried years ago. want to go home. Your apartment in Trastevere? He smiled, and it wasn't kind. The one bedroom with the broken lock that you share with 3 other women? The place Grimani's men are probably watching right now? Ice flooded my veins. How do you... I know everything about you, Ilara Fiore. He straightened, pulling a file from the desk drawer. My file. Photographs of me at the market, entering my building, sitting in cafes. 26 years old. Orphaned at 17 when your parents died in what was ruled an accident but looked a lot like arson. You've been living in the cracks ever since, selling information to the highest bidder. No loyalties, no connections. No one who would miss you if you disappeared. The clinical recitation of my life felt like being flayed. You had me investigated. The moment I learned your name, he dropped the file on the bed. You're good at being invisible. I'll give you that. But invisible means vulnerable. And now you've saved the most important person in my world. That makes you valuable. I'm not valuable. I'm a ghost. Not anymore. Lorenzo crouched beside the bed, bringing us eye to eye. Matteo Grimani wants you dead. My enemies will use you to get to me. You have 2 choices. Stay under my protection, or walk out that door and be dead within 48 hours. That's not a choice. No, he agreed softly. It's not. I wanted to fight, to scream that I'd survived this long without anyone's help, that I didn't need a mafia boss playing white knight. But the truth was colder than the sea breeze drifting through the windows. He was right. I'd stepped into his world the moment I stepped into that bullet's path. There was no going back. What do you want from me? The question came out smaller than I intended. Lorenzo's eyes darkened, something predatory and possessive flickering in their depths. I want you alive. I want you safe. I want... He stopped himself, jaw tightening. For now, I want you to heal. The rest we'll figure out. A knock at the door interrupted whatever I might have said. Carmela Moretti swept in, elegant in a cream silk blouse, her gaze landing on me with an intensity that rivaled her son's. So, she said, moving to the bedside, you're awake. Mrs. Moretti, Carmela. She sat on the edge of the bed, taking my hand with surprising gentleness. You took a bullet meant for me, child. The least you can do is use my name. Up close, I could see the steel beneath her grace. This woman had survived decades in a world that devoured the weak. She studied me like I was a puzzle she was determined to solve. Why did you do it? She asked. Everyone kept asking me that. Why? As if there was a logical answer to an instinctive choice. I don't know, I said again. But this time, under her knowing gaze, it felt less like a lie. Carmela smiled, soft and sad. Yes, you do. You just haven't admitted it to yourself yet. She patted my hand, then stood. Rest, heal. You're family now, whether you like it or not. She left, taking the air's warmth with her. Lorenzo remained, silent and watchful. I'm not family, I said into the quiet. You are now. He moved toward the door, pausing at the threshold. And in this family, Ilara, we protect what's ours, at any cost. The door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded like a cell locking. I looked down at my bandaged shoulder, at the silk sheets and the priceless art on the walls, at the prison made of beauty and blood. I'd saved a life, and in doing so, I'd lost my freedom. 3 days passed in that beautiful prison. 3 days of healing, of watching the sea through windows I couldn't open, of meals brought by silent staff who wouldn't meet my eyes. 3 days of Lorenzo appearing at odd hours, midnight, dawn, the purple hour between, sitting in that chair, watching me like I might disappear if he blinked. We didn't speak much. What was there to say? On the fourth day, I could walk without gasping. The doctor, a nervous man named Emilio, who reeked of expensive cologne and fear, cleared me for light activity, whatever that meant in a Mafia household. Lorenzo took it as permission to drag me into his world. "Come," he said that evening, appearing in my doorway in a black suit that probably cost more than my yearly income. "I want to show you something. I'm not dressed for... You're perfect." His eyes traveled over me, lingering on the simple white dress someone had left in the closet. It fit like it had been made for me. Probably had been. "Come." I followed because what choice did I have? Through marble hallways hung with Renaissance paintings, down stone steps worn smooth by centuries, into the belly of the villa. He led me to a library that stole my breath. Floor-to-ceiling shelves groaned with leather-bound books, illuminated by brass lamps that cast everything in honey gold. A fireplace large enough to stand in crackled with flames, and the scent of old paper and smoke wrapped around me like nostalgia. "My grandfather built this," Lorenzo said, watching my reaction. He believed power without knowledge was just violence with better weapons. "And you?" I turned to face him. "What do you believe?" "I believe power is meaningless if you can't protect what matters." He moved to a shelf, pulling down a volume. "Do you read, Alara?" "When I can afford to." Something flickered across his face. Regret? Anger? "You won't have to afford anything anymore. Everything here is yours." "I don't want your books." "Then what do you want?" He set the volume down, closing the distance between us. "Tell me what you want, and it's yours." "I want my life back." "Your life was survival." His voice dropped, intimate and dangerous. "I'm offering you something better." Captivity in a prettier cage? Partnership. The word hung between us like a loaded gun. "You saved my mother. That makes you part of this family, part of my life. I'm not asking you to love it, Alara. I'm asking you to survive it." "By doing what? Sitting in this villa like some trophy?" Lorenzo's laugh was dark, genuine. "If I wanted a trophy, I'd have left you in that hospital." He stepped closer, close enough that I could smell cedar and gunpowder on his skin. "You're intelligent, resourceful. You've spent years moving through shadows, gathering information, staying alive in a world that chews up women like you. Those skills, I can use them. I'm not a weapon." "Everyone's a weapon if you know how to wield them." His hand came up, fingers ghosting along my jaw. The touch sent electricity down my spine. "But you could be a partner, an equal, someone who stands beside me instead of behind me." "Why would I want that?" "Because the alternative is going back to that life you're so desperate to reclaim. Scraping by, selling scraps of information, one bad deal away from a bullet or worse." His thumb traced my lower lip, and I hated how my breath hitched. "Or you could stay here, protected, powerful, mine." That last word carried weight, possession and promise tangled together. I should have pulled away, should have reminded him that I wasn't some broken thing he could collect. But God, when was the last time someone had looked at me like I mattered? Like I was worth protecting instead of discarding? "I need to think," I whispered. "Think all you want." Lorenzo's smile was slow, dangerous. "But you're not leaving. Not until I know you're safe." "And when will that be?" "When Grimani's dead." He said it so casually, like he was discussing the weather. "When every man who saw you save my mother understands that touching you means war. When your name carries the weight of mine." "That could take months." "Then I suggest you get comfortable." The library door opened, and Nico entered. the scarred mountain of a man who'd been Lorenzo's shadow at the palazzo. He nodded toward me, something like respect in his eyes, then addressed his boss. The shipment's ready. Russo's been asking questions about the girl. Lorenzo's expression went cold. Tell the senator to mind his business unless he wants his wife receiving photographs from his last visit to the Amalfi Coast. Already done, Nico grinned. He backed off quick. Good. Lorenzo turned back to me. I need to handle something. You'll stay here. I'm not a dog you can command to sit. No, he agreed, and that predatory light returned to his eyes. You're far more valuable than any dog, which is why Nico will be stationed outside, and the estate is on lockdown. For your protection. My protection or my captivity? In my world, they're the same thing. He left, taking Nico with him, and the library felt larger without his presence. I wandered through the shelves, running fingers over spines written in languages I'd learned to read in stolen hours. Italian, French, Latin, books on philosophy and war, poetry and poison. I pulled down a volume on Renaissance Florence, and a photograph fell from between the pages. A young woman, maybe 20, with dark hair and laughing eyes. She stood beside a man who could only be a younger Lorenzo, less hardened, still carrying traces of boyhood softness. They looked happy. Genuinely, impossibly happy. I'd never seen Lorenzo smile like that. I tucked the photograph back, but curiosity had its hooks in me. Who was she? Where was she now? And why did I feel a stab of something ugly and possessive at the thought of Lorenzo loving someone else? A soft knock made me turn. One of the household staff, a young woman with kind eyes, entered carrying a tray. Signora Moretti requests your presence for dinner, she said in heavily accented English. I'm not really. She insists. The girl smiled. And Signora Carmela always gets her way. So I found myself in a dining room that could seat 30, with just Carmela and me at one end. She'd changed into a deep burgundy gown, diamonds at her throat catching candlelight. Sit, she commanded gently. I sat. Wine was poured, something red and ancient. Carmela studied me over the rim of her glass like I was a particularly interesting specimen. You're wondering why you're still here, she said. Not a question. Among other things. Lorenzo doesn't trust easily, but when he does, it's absolute. She set down her glass. Do you know why he became head of this family? Your husband died. My husband was murdered. Her voice didn't waver. By men he trusted, men who shared our table, who kissed my cheeks and called my son nephew. They put 3 bullets in Antonio's heart and left him bleeding in our vineyard. I said nothing. What could I say? Lorenzo was 25. Too young, they said. Too soft. But he learned quickly that mercy is a luxury we can't afford. Carmela's eyes found mine. He killed them all. Every single man who betrayed us. And he did it personally, because that's what power requires in this world. Absolute commitment. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to understand the man who's claimed you. She leaned forward. Lorenzo doesn't do anything halfway. If he's decided you're under his protection, he'll burn the world to keep you safe. But there's a price for that protection, Alara. What price? Loyalty, honesty, and eventually, she smiled, sad and knowing, your heart. He doesn't want my heart. Perhaps not yet, but Lorenzo collects what's valuable and guards it jealously. Carmela reached across the table, taking my hand. You saved my life. That makes you precious to him, even if he doesn't realize it yet. The question is, what will you do with that power? I pulled my hand back, unsettled. I don't want power. Then you're in the wrong world, child. Dinner continued in thoughtful silence, but her words echoed through my mind like prophecy. Later, alone in my room with the sea whispering secrets outside, I touched the bandage on my shoulder and wondered if Carmela was right. If by saving one life, I'd condemned myself to something far more dangerous than death. I'd condemned myself to mattering. Engagement question. Would you trust Lorenzo's protection or fight for your freedom no matter the cost? Drop your choice in the comments. I'm dying to know if you'd stay or run. The attack came on my 7th night. I was in the library again. It had become my sanctuary in that gilded prison. Lorenzo was away handling business, which I'd learned was code for anything from negotiations to executions. And the villa felt too quiet, too empty. I'd just found a collection of Sicilian poetry when the lights went out. Darkness swallowed everything. Not the gentle darkness of night, but the absolute black of deliberate power failure. My heart kicked against my ribs as I stood, book falling forgotten. Then, gunfire. Sharp cracks that echoed through stone hallways, followed by shouts in Italian, running footsteps, the wet sound of something heavy hitting the floor. My breath came too fast. I pressed against the bookshelf, mind racing. The villa was supposed to be impenetrable. Lorenzo had told me that a dozen times, like a promise he was making to himself as much as me. But someone had gotten through. The library door burst open. I bit back a scream as a shadow filled the doorway, but it was Nico, blood streaming from a cut above his eye, gun raised. "Signora!" He grabbed my arm. "We need to move. Now." "What's happening?" Grimani's men. They breached the east wall. He pulled me toward the door, his grip bruising. "Boss's orders. You get to the panic room, no matter what." We ran through darkness broken only by emergency lighting. The sounds of fighting grew louder. Men shouting, more gunfire. Something that might have been screaming. My bare feet slapped against marble as Nico dragged me down a corridor I'd never seen before. He stopped at what looked like a solid wall, pressing his palm against a hidden scanner. The wall slid open with a whisper of hydraulics. "Inside!" He shoved me toward the opening. "Lock it behind me. Don't open it for anyone except—" His words cut off with a wet gasp. I watched, frozen in horror, as blood bloomed across his white shirt. He looked down at the knife buried in his side, then up at the figure emerging from the shadows behind him. Not just any figure. Matteo Grimani himself. I'd seen photographs, but they didn't capture the casual cruelty in his smile or the dead emptiness in his eyes. He was handsome in the way poisonous things are beautiful. Sharp features, expensive suit, hands that looked soft but moved with practiced violence. "Hello, Ilara," he said, twisting the knife. Nico dropped to his knees with a groan. I should have run. Should have thrown myself into that panic room and sealed it shut. But my legs wouldn't move, frozen by the same instinct that had made me save Carmela, the inability to abandon someone suffering in front of me. "Don't," I whispered. Grimani pulled the knife free, letting Nico collapse. "Don't what? Kill him? Too late. Don't kill you?" He stepped over Nico's body like it was debris. "That's not up to me anymore, darling. You made yourself part of this war." "I'm not. You took a bullet for the Moretti matriarch." He was close now, close enough that I could smell expensive cologne and underneath it, blood. "Do you know what that means in our world? It means you chose a side. And sides have consequences." His hand shot out, grabbing my throat, not hard enough to choke, but enough to make his point. I clawed at his wrist, but he was stronger, and my shoulder was still healing. "Lorenzo thinks he can protect you," Grimani murmured, his breath hot against my face. "He thinks hiding you in his fortress makes you untouchable. But I've been watching, Ilara. I know everything about you, including the fact that you're not some innocent civilian who stumbled into our world. Fear turned to ice in my veins. I don't know what you're— Don't lie. His grip tightened. You're an information broker, a shadow merchant, and 6 months ago, you accepted a contract. My contract. To infiltrate the Moretti organization and report back on their movements. The world tilted. No. I see you remember now. His smile widened. You took my money, Alara. 5,000 euros up front. And then you what? Developed a conscience? Saw the big bad Mafia boss and decided he was worth saving? I didn't know. The words choked out. I didn't know it was them. I didn't know it was her. Doesn't matter. Grimani released my throat, but before I could run, he grabbed my wounded shoulder, digging his fingers into the healing injury. White-hot agony exploded through me. I screamed. What matters is that Lorenzo doesn't know. Does he? Tears streamed down my face from the pain. Please! I could tell him, could watch his face when he realizes the woman he's protecting, the woman he's starting to trust, was sent to destroy him. Grimani leaned close. Or you could finish what you started. Feed me information. Help me bring the Morettis down from the inside. I won't. Then I'll make sure Lorenzo learns the truth about you, and we both know what he does to traitors. He released my shoulder, and I sagged against the wall, gasping. Think about it, Alara. You have until— The gunshot was thunder in the confined space. Grimani stumbled, shock replacing cruelty on his face. He looked down at the spreading red stain on his chest, then behind him. Lorenzo stood in the corridor, gun raised, eyes blazing with something beyond rage, beyond fury, something primal and absolute. You should have run faster, Lorenzo said quietly. He fired again, and again, each shot precise, methodical. Grimani fell, body jerking with each impact, until he lay still in a growing pool of his own blood. The silence after was deafening. Lorenzo lowered the gun, his gaze finding me. I was still pressed against the wall, shaking, blood from my reopened wound soaking through my dress. Alara. He said my name like a prayer or a curse. Are you hurt? I couldn't speak, couldn't move. The truth Grimani had revealed sat like acid in my throat. Lorenzo crossed to me in 2 strides, hands gentle as they checked me over. Your shoulder. Christ, you're bleeding again. He glanced at Nico's body, something flickering across his face. Grief, maybe, or just calculation. We need to get you out of here. He knew, I whispered. Grimani knew about me. Lorenzo went still. Knew what? This was it. The moment where I could lie, could bury the truth and hope it never surfaced. Or I could tell him, consequences be damned. I looked into his eyes, those whiskey and winter eyes that had started to look at me like I was something precious, and made my choice. 6 months ago, I took a contract. I didn't know who the target was, just that someone wanted intelligence on a wealthy family. 5,000 euros to observe and report. The words tumbled out like a confession to a priest. I took the money, Lorenzo. I was going to spy on you. His expression didn't change. That was somehow worse than anger. But I didn't, I continued desperately. I cashed the check and then I couldn't. Something felt wrong. I ghosted the contact, avoided the meetings. I thought if I just disappeared into the background again, it would be over. But it wasn't. His voice was flat, emotionless. No. Grimani was the client. He just told me. He threatened to expose me unless I finished the job. Silence stretched between us like broken glass. Then Lorenzo did something I didn't expect. He pulled me against his chest, careful of my shoulder, one hand cradling the back of my head. You told me. he said into my hair. You could have lied, could have let me kill him and buried the truth. But you told me. I'm sorry. Don't. He pulled back enough to look at me, and what I saw in his eyes wasn't anger. It was something far more dangerous. You took money to betray me, then chose not to. You saved my mother's life. You just told me a truth that could get you killed. His thumb brushed away the tears on my cheek. Do you understand what that means? That I'm an idiot? A ghost of a smile touched his lips. That you're honest. In a world built on lies, Alara, honesty is the rarest currency there is. You're not angry? Oh, I'm furious. But his touch remained gentle. Furious that Grimani tried to use you. Furious that he got close enough to hurt you. Furious that I wasn't here to protect you. His forehead pressed against mine. But not at you. Never at you. Why? Because you chose me. Simple words, weighted with everything unsaid. When it mattered, you chose to save my family instead of selling us out. That choice means more than whatever contract you signed. Footsteps echoed in the corridor. More of Lorenzo's men, securing the area, removing bodies. The practical aftermath of violence. Lorenzo kept me close, shielding me from the worst of it. Nico? I asked quietly. Dead. The word was heavy with grief. He died protecting you. That matters. I'm sorry. He'd say it was worth it. Lorenzo guided me toward the panic room, away from the carnage. Come. You need medical attention, and we need to secure the estate. But as he led me through dark corridors slick with blood, I couldn't shake Grimani's words. Lorenzo doesn't know what he does to traitors. I'd told him the truth. He'd accepted it. But what happened when he learned I wasn't just a failed spy? What happened when he discovered that my parents' death, the accident that had orphaned me, wasn't an accident at all? That Matteo Grimani had ordered it, but Lorenzo's father had carried it out? Some truths, I realized, were too dangerous to speak, even to the man who'd just saved my life. The estate became a fortress within a fortress after that night. Armed guards patrolled every corridor. Motion sensors covered every approach. Lorenzo installed biometric locks on my bedroom door. For my safety, he said, but we both knew the truth. I was valuable now, not just protected, but guarded, kept. 3 days after Grimani's death, Lorenzo came to my room at midnight. I was awake, staring at the ceiling, too wired to sleep. The knock was soft, almost tentative. Come in, I called. He entered carrying a bottle of whiskey and 2 glasses. His shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves rolled up, hair disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it. He looked exhausted, human. Couldn't sleep? He asked. Could you? A tired smile. No. He poured 2 fingers of amber liquid into each glass, handed me one. To Nico, to loyalty, to the dead who protect the living. We drank. The whiskey burned going down, smooth and expensive. Lorenzo sank into the chair by my window. His chair now, I'd started thinking of it. He'd spent so many hours there, watching me heal, that it seemed to carry his shape. I need to tell you something, he said. My stomach tightened. Okay. After Grimani's attack, I had my people dig deeper, looking for how he knew about you, how he breached our security. He swirled the whiskey in his glass. They found something in his estate, documents. What kind of documents? Records, going back 20 years. His eyes found mine in the darkness. Your parents, Alara, their deaths weren't accidental. I'd known, some part of me had always known, but hearing it confirmed was like being shot all over again. Grimani ordered it, I said. Not a question. Yes. Lorenzo leaned forward, elbows on his knees. But he didn't carry it out personally. He contracted it to someone else, someone who needed leverage against a small import business that was operating in his territory. The way he said it, careful, measured, made dread pool in my stomach. Who? The word came out barely a whisper. Lorenzo's jaw tightened. My father, Antonio Moretti. The world stopped. I heard the words, understood their meaning, but couldn't reconcile them with reality. The whiskey glass slipped from my fingers, amber liquid spreading across white sheets like old blood. Your father. My voice sounded distant, disconnected. Your father killed my parents. He took the contract. I don't know if he pulled the trigger himself or delegated, but yes. The order came from Grimani, but the execution... Lorenzo's face was carved from stone. It was Moretti work. I should have screamed, should have thrown something, attacked him, run. But I just sat there, numb, as 15 years of grief rearranged itself into something uglier. You knew, I said. When you investigated me, you must have found this. I found the fire. I found the closed case, the insurance payout that never came. I didn't connect it to my father until after Grimani died. He stood, pacing like a caged animal. If I'd known before... What? You wouldn't have protected me? Bitterness leaked into my voice. You would have let me bleed out on that ballroom floor? I don't know. The honesty in those 3 words cut deeper than any lie. Maybe. Probably. Family comes first in this world, Alara. Even dead family. Even guilty family. Then why tell me now? Lorenzo stopped pacing, turning to face me fully. Because you deserve the truth. Because I'm asking something from you that requires complete honesty between us. Asking what? Marry me. I laughed. I couldn't help it. The sound bubbled up, half hysteria, half disbelief. You're insane. I'm practical. He moved closer, his presence filling the space. Grimani's death created a power vacuum. 5 families are circling, looking for weakness. They see you as my vulnerability, the woman I'm protecting without clear claim. If you're my wife, you become untouchable. Family. Sacred. I'm not marrying you for political convenience. Not just convenience. His hand cupped my face, thumb tracing my cheekbone. You told me the truth when lying would have been easier. You saved my mother. You chose honor over survival. Those aren't things I take lightly. Your father murdered my parents. I know. Pain flickered across his features. And if he were alive, I'd put a gun in your hand and let you pull the trigger. But he's been dead for 6 years, Alara. I can't undo what he did. I can only offer you what I have now: protection, power, vengeance against anyone who tries to hurt you. Love? The word escaped before I could stop it. Can you offer that? Lorenzo's expression shifted, something raw and unguarded breaking through. I don't know if I'm capable of love the way normal people are. This life burns it out of you, or twists it into something unrecognizable. But I know I'd kill anyone who touched you. I know I can't sleep unless I know you're safe. I know that when I thought Grimani had hurt you, I wanted to resurrect him just to kill him again slower. He leaned in, breath warm against my lips. If that's love, then yes. If it's obsession or possession or something darker, I don't care what we call it. You're mine, Alara. You were mine the moment you took that bullet. I should have said no. Should have told him that marriage built on murder and secrets couldn't last. But his words wrapped around something broken inside me, filling spaces I'd tried to ignore. I need time, I whispered. You have until morning. He pulled back, and the loss of his warmth felt like abandonment. After that, I'm announcing our engagement whether you agree or not. Better you have a choice in it. That's not a choice. No, he agreed, moving toward the door. But it's more than most people in this world get. He left me there, alone with the truth and the whiskey stains spreading like a prophecy. I didn't sleep. How could I? Instead, I wandered the villa's halls, guards tracking my movement with wary eyes. I ended up in the chapel, a small, ornate room I'd never entered before. Candles flickered before an altar draped in crimson, and the air smelled of incense and old prayers. Carmela was there, kneeling in prayer. She didn't startle when I entered, just gestured to the pew beside her. Can't sleep either? Your son just proposed to me. I know, he asked my blessing first. She crossed herself and stood with the grace of long practice. I told him he was rushing things. But you gave your blessing anyway. I did. Carmela sat beside me, taking my hand. Do you know why? Because I saved your life? Because you told him the truth. Her grip tightened. Lorenzo told me about the contract, about Grimani's attempt to recruit you. Lesser women would have buried that secret, would have played the innocent victim. But you confessed. That takes courage, child. Courage this family needs. His father killed my parents. I know that too. Carmela's voice was heavy. Antonio was many things. A good husband, a fierce leader, a loving father, but he was also ruthless. He did terrible things in service of this family. Things I chose not to see because seeing them would have required action I wasn't ready to take. She turned to me, eyes glistening with unshed tears. I can't undo his sins, Ilara. Neither can Lorenzo. But we can offer you something better than revenge. We can offer you family. Real family. The kind that bleeds for each other. By marrying your son. By choosing to stay when running would be easier. Carmela's smile was sad. You think I don't know what Lorenzo's offering you? It's not romance, not yet. It's survival wrapped in silk and called love. But survival is how all great loves start in this world. You survive together long enough, and eventually, you can't imagine surviving apart. You're asking me to forgive the unforgivable. I'm asking you to decide what matters more, the past you can't change or the future you could build. She stood, smoothing her dress. Lorenzo is waiting in his study. Whatever you choose, tell him yourself. He deserves that much. She left me alone with saints painted on walls and candles burning for the dead. I thought about my parents, their faces already fading from memory after so many years. Would they want me to refuse? To walk away from the family that destroyed ours? Or would they want me to survive, whatever that took? I thought about Lorenzo, the way he looked at me like I was something precious and dangerous, the way his hands were gentle despite the violence they'd committed, the way he'd given me truth when lies would have been kinder. I thought about the alternative, going back to my half-life of shadows and survival, always looking over my shoulder, always alone. And I realized Carmela was right. This wasn't about forgiveness. It was about choice. I could choose to let the past consume me, or I could choose to survive. I found Lorenzo in his study, surrounded by maps and ledgers, a glass of whiskey forgotten at his elbow. He looked up when I entered, wariness and hope warring in his expression. Ilara, I'll marry you, I said before I could change my mind. But I have conditions. Something like relief flooded his features. Name them. First, I want the truth. Always. No more secrets, no more protection through ignorance. If you're making me part of this family, I need to know everything. Agreed. Second, I'm not a trophy. If I'm going to be your wife, I'm going to be useful. You said you could use my skills. Prove it. A slow smile curved his lips. Done. What else? Third, I moved closer until I could see the flecks of gold in his whiskey eyes. If I'm giving you my loyalty, my name, my future, I want something in return. Anything. I want you to teach me how to protect myself, how to shoot, how to fight, how to survive in this world without always needing to be saved. Lorenzo studied me for a long moment, then nodded. I'll teach you everything I know. But Alara... What? He reached out, fingers tangling in my hair, pulling me close. Once we do this, there's no going back. You'll be mine in every way that matters, and I don't share what's mine. I know. Do you? His lips hovered over mine, a breath away. Because I need you to understand. I'm not a good man. I've killed. I've lied. I've built an empire on blood and fear. Marrying me won't make you good. It'll just make you mine. Then make me yours, I whispered against his mouth. Completely. He kissed me like he was claiming territory, like I was air and he was drowning. His hands were everywhere, tangling in my hair, gripping my waist, pressing me against him until I could feel his heartbeat thundering against mine. I kissed him back with equal hunger, months of tension and fear and want exploding between us. My fingers found the buttons of his shirt, fumbling them open, needing to feel skin against skin. Ilara! My name was a growl against my throat. Are you sure? I took a bullet for your mother. I think I can handle this. His laugh was dark, breathless. You have no idea what you're getting into. Then show me. He did. Lorenzo carried me to the leather couch in the corner, laying me down with surprising gentleness. But there was nothing gentle in the way he looked at me, like I was something he wanted to devour, possess, keep. Clothes disappeared. His shirt, my dress, barriers between us dissolving. His hands mapped my body like he was memorizing territory, and everywhere he touched ignited. Beautiful, he murmured against my collarbone. You're so goddamn beautiful. Shut up and kiss me. He obliged, and the world narrowed to sensation. His weight above me, his hands on my skin, the way he whispered my name like a prayer and a curse. We moved together like we'd been made for this, for each other. Every touch was a promise, every gasp a vow. He was careful of my healing shoulder, but everywhere else he was demanding, insistent, claiming me in ways I'd never been claimed before. And I let him. God help me. I wanted it. Wanted him. Wanted to be possessed by someone who looked at me like I was worth dying for. Afterward, tangled together on the couch, his fingers tracing idle patterns on my spine, Lorenzo spoke against my hair. I meant what I said before, about not knowing if I can love the way normal people do. I know. But this... His arms tightened around me. This feels close. Close enough that I'm willing to call it love if you are. I thought about everything that had led me here. The bullet, the blood, the secrets and lies and terrible truths. I thought about his father and my parents and the twisted road that had brought us together. Love might be too simple a word for what this is, I said softly. But it's ours. Whatever we call it, it's ours. Mine, he corrected, tilting my face up to his. You're mine, Alara Fiore, soon to be Alara Moretti. Yours, I agreed, and sealed it with a kiss that tasted like whiskey and promises we'd probably break. But in that moment, in the darkness of his study with the world locked outside, it was enough. It had to be. Engagement question. If someone from your enemy's family offered you everything, protection, power, partnership, would you take it? Or would loyalty to the past hold you back? Tell me in the comments which choice defines you. The engagement announcement sent shockwaves through the underworld. Lorenzo Moretti, notorious for his detachment, for keeping lovers at arm's length and never allowing sentiment to cloud business, was marrying a woman no one had heard of. A ghost who'd appeared from nowhere and somehow captured the untouchable Don's attention. The rumors were vicious and creative. She must be pregnant. She must have blackmail material. She must be a plant from a rival family. She must be extraordinary in bed. She must be dying and he feels guilty. She must have bewitched him. That last one was closer to truth than they knew. The wedding was planned for 2 weeks out, fast by normal standards, breakneck by Mafia standards. Carmela threw herself into preparations with the enthusiasm of a general planning a campaign, and I quickly learned that saying no to her was like saying no to a tidal wave. "You need a dress," she declared on day 3, sweeping into my room with an entourage of tailors. "Something that makes a statement. You're not just marrying my son, you're marrying into legacy." I stood on a pedestal for 3 hours while they pinned and measured and draped expensive fabric across my skin. The dress that emerged was beautiful. Ivory silk that hugged my curves before cascading in soft waves, with delicate beading across the bodice that caught light like captured stars. "Perfect," Carmela breathed. "You look like a queen." "I feel like a fraud." She dismissed the tailors with a wave, waiting until we were alone. "Why?" "'Cause I don't belong here. I'm not—" I gestured helplessly at my reflection. "I'm not this." "You're exactly this." Carmela's hands settled on my shoulders. "You think I was born into this world? I was a baker's daughter from Sicily. I met Antonio when I was 19, working in my father's shop. He walked in one day for bread and walked out engaged to me." "That's different." "How? Because I didn't know who he was at first?" She turned me to face her. "Alara, every woman who marries into this life feels like a fraud at the beginning, but you have something most of them don't." "What's that?" "You saved a life before you knew what it would cost you. That's not fraud. That's character. Hold on to that." Lorenzo kept his promise about teaching me. Every morning at dawn, before the rest of the house woke, he'd take me to the estate's private shooting range. A converted wine cellar transformed into something far more lethal. "Hold it like this," he instructed on the first day, positioning my hands on the Beretta. His body pressed against my back, arms guiding mine, breath warm against my neck. "Feel the weight. Respect it." "It's heavier than I thought." "Good. Guns aren't toys. Every shot is a choice you can't take back." His finger covered mine on the trigger. "Aim for center mass. Don't try for headshots. Too much can go wrong. You want to stop a threat, not impress anyone." I fired. The recoil shocked through my arms, the target downrange acquiring a whole 6 inches left of center. "Again," Lorenzo said. We practiced until my shoulder ached and my ears rang despite the protection, until I could hit center mass 8 times out of 10, until the weight of the gun felt natural in my hands. "Why are you really teaching me this?" I asked one morning, after I'd emptied a magazine with decent accuracy. Lorenzo ejected the spent cartridge, his expression thoughtful. "Because I won't always be there. Because enemies target what's precious, and I need to know you can protect yourself when I can't." He cupped my face, thumb brushing my cheek. "Because the thought of losing you terrifies me more than anything I've faced, and at least if you can shoot, I'll worry slightly less." "You're scared?" "Absolutely." The admission was raw, unguarded. For the first time in years, I have something to lose. Someone who matters more than the business, the empire, the legacy. That's terrifying. I kissed him there in the gun smoke and dim lighting, tasting vulnerability on his lips. But not everyone welcomed our union. The first threat came in the form of a letter, delivered to the estate despite security, placed on my pillow like a lover's note. Call off the wedding or bleed at the altar. No signature. Didn't need one. Lorenzo's rage when he found it was incandescent. He had the entire security team interrogated, backgrounds checked, loyalties tested. 2 guards were fired for negligence. 1 disappeared entirely. I didn't ask what happened to him. "This doesn't change anything," Lorenzo said, crumpling the letter in his fist. "If anything, it proves we're doing the right thing. They're scared. Scared enough to kill me. They can try." His smile was cold and sharp. "But I'll paint the streets red before I let anyone touch you." The second threat was subtler. A woman appeared at the estate gates 3 days before the wedding, beautiful in that carefully maintained way that spoke of wealth and effort. Dark hair, designer clothes, red lips curved in a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I need to see Lorenzo," she told the guards. "Tell him Isabetta is here." Isabetta, the name from the photograph I'd found in the library. Lorenzo's face when he heard went carefully blank. "Let her in." She swept into the receiving room like she owned it, and I understood immediately she had owned it once. This had been her world before it became mine. "Lorenzo." She air-kissed his cheeks, her gaze sliding to me with predatory assessment. "And this must be the famous Alara, the woman who's captured our untouchable Don." "Isabetta." Lorenzo's voice was polite but distant. "This is unexpected. I heard about the wedding. I had to come see for myself." She settled onto the sofa like a cat claiming territory. "After all, we were engaged once. I thought I deserved a proper introduction to your bride." The word carried just enough poison to sting. "We were never engaged," Lorenzo corrected. "We dated 2 years ago. It ended." "You ended it." Her smile sharpened. "Because I wanted things you weren't ready to give. Commitment, vulnerability, love." Her eyes found mine. "But I suppose you're ready now. How nice for you, Alara." "Isabetta." Lorenzo's tone carried a warning. "I'm not here to cause trouble." She stood, smoothing her dress. "I just wanted to meet the woman who managed what I couldn't, who cracked open the great Lorenzo Moretti's heart." She moved closer to me, voice dropping. "Word of advice? Hearts that crack break easy. Be careful with his." "I will be." "Good." She turned back to Lorenzo. "I wish you happiness. Genuinely. You deserve it, even if you never thought you did." She left as dramatically as she'd arrived, her perfume lingering like a ghost. Lorenzo pulled me against his chest the moment she was gone. "I'm sorry. I didn't know she'd come." "Did you love her?" "I thought I did. Or maybe I loved the idea of being capable of it." His hands framed my face. "But what I felt for her was a candle compared to the wildfire you've started. There's no comparison, Alara. None. She's beautiful. She's the past." He kissed me softly. "You're the future. The only future I want." The final threat came the night before the wedding. I was in the chapel, drawn there by restlessness and nerves, when I heard footsteps. Too heavy to be Carmela, too deliberate to be guards. A man emerged from the shadows, older, maybe 60, with silver hair and a face lined by violence. I'd never seen him before, but I recognized authority when I saw it. "Alara Fiore," he said. "I wondered if you'd run." "Who are you?" "Don Salvatore Russo. I knew Lorenzo's father." He moved to the altar, lighting a candle with practiced ease. "I knew your parents, too." My blood went cold. "What?" "Marco and Anna Fiore. Good people, honest people. Wrong place, wrong time." He turned to me. Antonio Moretti killed them on Grimani's orders. Lorenzo told you that, yes? Yes. But did he tell you why? Salvatore's eyes were sharp, assessing. Did he tell you that your father had evidence, photographs, documents, proving Grimani's involvement in human trafficking, that he was going to go to the authorities? No. The word came out shaky. Your father was brave. Stupid, but brave. He thought he could bring down Grimani with evidence. Antonio disagreed, thought it would bring too much attention to all the families, so he made the problem disappear. Salvatore's expression softened slightly. I'm sorry, child. I argued against it, but I was overruled. Why are you telling me this now? Because tomorrow you marry Lorenzo. You become family. And family deserves to know the whole truth, not just the convenient parts. He moved toward the door, pausing at the threshold. Your father died trying to do the right thing in a world where right and wrong are luxuries. Don't make the same mistake. In this life, survival is the only morality that matters. He left me there, alone with new truths that rearranged everything. My father hadn't just been collateral damage. He'd been a threat, an idealist who believed in justice, and Lorenzo's father had killed him for it. I should have run. Should have called off the wedding, disappeared into the night, started over somewhere far from Mafia politics and blood-soaked empires. But I thought about Lorenzo teaching me to shoot, about Carmela welcoming me as a daughter, about belonging somewhere for the first time since I was 17, about choosing survival over righteousness. My father had chosen righteousness and died for it. I would choose differently. I would choose Lorenzo. I would choose to survive. That night, Lorenzo found me still in the chapel, candles burning low. Tomorrow, he said softly, kneeling beside me, tomorrow you become my wife, my family, my everything. His hand found mine. Are you ready? I thought about everything I'd learned, everything I'd chosen to overlook, to forgive, to accept. Yes, I said, and meant it. Whatever came next, we'd face it together, for better or worse, in blood and in love. I married Lorenzo Moretti on a Tuesday morning when the sun painted Naples in gold. The chapel was small, intimate, just family, and Lorenzo's most trusted men. Carmela had wanted something grand, a statement wedding that would broadcast our union to every family in Italy. But Lorenzo overruled her. I'm not putting Ilara on display like a trophy, he'd said. This is ours, private. So we gathered in the estate's chapel, the same place where I'd made my choice the night before, where secrets had been whispered and candles burned for the dead. I wore the ivory gown, my hair swept up and woven with small white roses. Simple, elegant, mine. Lorenzo stood at the altar in a black suit that looked painted on, his eyes tracking my approach with an intensity that stole breath. When I reached him, he took my hands, and I felt the slight tremor in his fingers. He was nervous. Lorenzo Moretti, Don of one of Italy's most powerful families, a man who'd killed without hesitation, was nervous about marrying me. The priest began the ceremony in Latin, words ancient and binding. I barely heard them. All I could focus on was Lorenzo's thumb tracing circles on my palm, grounding me. Do you, Ilara Fiore, take this man? I do. Do you, Lorenzo Moretti, take this woman? I do. No hesitation. Absolute certainty. Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife. Lorenzo kissed me before the priest finished speaking, pulling me against him with possessive intensity. The kiss was a claim, a promise, a warning to anyone watching. She's mine now. Completely. Applause erupted from our small audience. Carmela was crying. dabbing at her eyes with a silk handkerchief. Even some of Lorenzo's men, hardened killers who'd seen things that would break normal people, looked moved. But not everyone was celebrating. I caught a figure in the back, half hidden in shadow, a man I didn't recognize, watching with cold assessment. Before I could point him out, he slipped away. The reception was held in the villa's ballroom, transformed into something from a dream. Crystal everywhere, flowers cascading from every surface, champagne flowing like water. To the bride and groom, Carmela toasted, raising her glass. May your love be as strong as your loyalty, and your loyalty as unbreakable as Moretti steel. We drank. We danced. Lorenzo held me close as a string quartet played something beautiful and melancholy. Any regrets? He murmured against my ear. Ask me in a year. His laugh rumbled through his chest. Fair enough. But the peace didn't last. Midway through our first dance, one of Lorenzo's men, a young soldier named Marco, approached, his face pale. Boss, we have a situation. Lorenzo's arms tightened around me protectively. What kind of situation? Someone left a package at the south gate, addressed to the bride. Every muscle in Lorenzo's body went rigid. Show me. He kept me close as we moved to his office, Marco trailing behind. On the desk sat an ornate box wrapped in white paper and tied with black ribbon, beautiful and sinister. Don't touch it, Lorenzo warned when I reached for it. Marco, get the bomb tech. It's not a bomb, I said quietly. How do you know? Because whoever sent it wants me to open it. I met his eyes. And if we call in the tech, we show fear, weakness. Lorenzo studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Open it. I cut the ribbon, lifted the lid. Inside, nestled in black tissue paper, was a photograph of me, taken 3 days ago during target practice. The angle suggested someone with access to the estate, someone who could move through our security undetected. Beneath the photograph, a note in elegant script. Congratulations on your wedding, Mrs. Moretti. Enjoy it while it lasts. Some debts can never be repaid. Some sins can never be forgiven. Your father knew that. Soon you will too. The note wasn't signed, but it didn't need to be. Lorenzo's face had gone dangerously calm, the kind of calm that preceded violence. Marco, lock down the estate. No one in or out. I want every member of staff questioned. Someone let an enemy get close enough to photograph my wife. My wife. The possessive pronoun sent a thrill through me despite the circumstances. Lorenzo, don't. He pulled me against him, his heartbeat thundering. Don't tell me it's fine or that you're not scared. Someone threatened you on our wedding day, in our home. That's not something I'll tolerate. I'm not scared. He pulled back to look at me. You should be. I'm angry, I corrected. There's a difference. A ghost of a smile. That's my girl. He kissed my forehead. Go back to the reception. Smile, dance, show everyone that threats don't shake you. I need to handle this. I'm staying with you. Alara, we just promised to face everything together. That starts now. I picked up the photograph, studying it. Besides, I might recognize something you don't. Lorenzo hesitated, then nodded. Fine, but you stay behind me. Always. We spent the next hour reviewing security footage, questioning staff, analyzing the photograph. The angle suggested it was taken from the east wing, 3rd floor, a guest room that had been unoccupied, or so we thought. The guard who'd been stationed there, a man named Paolo, was missing. Find him, Lorenzo ordered. Alive, if possible. I have questions. They found Paolo an hour later, in the wine cellar with a bullet through his brain. Suicide, The scene was staged to suggest, but the angle was wrong, and there was no gunpowder residue on his hands. Murder dressed as suicide. Whoever did this has inside knowledge, Nico's replacement, a scarred enforcer named Dante, said. They know our protocols, our blind spots. Then we have a traitor. Lorenzo's voice was ice. Someone Nico trusted. Someone I trusted. He turned to me, his expression softening slightly. I need you to go to our room. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone except me or my mother. Lorenzo, please. The word cost him. I can't hunt a traitor and protect you at the same time. I need to know you're safe. I wanted to argue, but I saw the fear beneath his command. Real, visceral fear that something would happen to me. Okay, I said, but promise me you'll be careful. Always. He kissed me, deep and desperate. This is our wedding day. I'll be damned if I let anyone ruin it completely. I returned to our room. Our room now, another shift in reality, and locked the door as instructed. The wedding gown suddenly felt too tight, too heavy. I changed into a silk robe, poured myself a glass of wine, and tried to calm the adrenaline thrumming through my veins. The photograph sat on the dresser, mocking me. Some debts can never be repaid. Some sins can never be forgiven. What debt? What sin? My father had tried to expose Grimani. Lorenzo's father had killed him for it. Grimani was dead now, killed by Lorenzo. That should have balanced the scales, unless there was more. Unless Don Salvatore had only told me part of the truth. A soft knock made me jump. It's me, Carmela's voice called. I opened the door, and she swept in carrying a bottle of champagne and 2 glasses. I figured you could use company, she said, settling onto the sofa, and perhaps some answers. Answers to what? To why someone wants you dead so badly. She poured champagne, her movements elegant despite the gravity of her words. Sit, child. It's time you learned about the Fiore family's real legacy. My stomach dropped. What do you mean, real legacy? Your father wasn't just a merchant, Alara. He was a money launderer, one of the best in southern Italy. Carmela took a sip, watching my reaction. He worked for multiple families, including ours, including Grimani's. He had access to everything, financial records, trafficking routes, political connections. The room tilted. You're lying. I wish I was. Genuine sadness crossed her features. Marco Fiore was brilliant. He could make millions disappear and reappear clean, but he got greedy, started keeping copies of everything. Insurance, he called it. The evidence Don Salvatore mentioned. More than that. Your father had enough information to bring down half the families in Italy. When he threatened to use it, he signed his death warrant. Carmela leaned forward. But before Antonio killed him, your father hid the evidence. We've been looking for it for 15 years. And now you think I know where it is. Do you? I thought about my childhood, about boxes in storage I'd never opened, afraid of what memories they'd contain. About the key my mother had given me before she died, making me promise to keep it safe. A key I still wore around my neck, hidden beneath silk and secrets. No, I lied. Carmela studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Good, because if that evidence surfaces, it won't just destroy Grimani's legacy. It'll destroy ours too. Everything Lorenzo has built, everything I've protected, gone. She stood, moving to the door. One more thing, Alara. Whoever sent that photograph today, they're not working alone. This is bigger than a vendetta. Someone wants to use you to bring down the Morettis. Her eyes hardened. Don't let them. You're family now. Family protects each other, no matter the cost. She left, and I was alone with champagne and terrible truths. My hand went to the key around my neck, warm from my skin. I had married Lorenzo, knowing his father killed my parents. But I hadn't known my father was a criminal too. Hadn't known I might be carrying the key to everyone's destruction. The question was, what would I do with it? Lorenzo returned near dawn, blood on his knuckles and exhaustion in his eyes. "Did you find the traitor?" I asked from where I had been waiting by the window. "Yes." He washed his hands in the bathroom, the water running red. "Dante took care of it." "Is that code for dead?" "Yes." He dried his hands, leaning against the doorframe. "I'm sorry. This isn't how our wedding night should have gone." "Come here." He crossed to me, and I pulled him into my arms, feeling the tension in his muscles. "We're alive," I said against his chest. "We're together. Everything else is just noise." "You're remarkably calm about all this." "I'm terrified," I admitted, "but being terrified won't help, so I choose to be useful instead." Lorenzo pulled back, studying my face. "What did my mother tell you?" "The truth about my father. I touched the key through my robe. Or part of it. And I'm still here, still your wife, still choosing this life." I kissed him softly. "Whatever comes next, we face it together. That's what marriage means, right? In our world, it means more than that." His hands framed my face, thumbs tracing my cheekbones. "It means your enemies are my enemies. Your secrets are my secrets. Your sins are my sins." "Then we're both damned." "Probably." A tired smile touched his lips. "But at least we're damned together." He kissed me then, and I tasted blood and champagne and promises neither of us might be able to keep. But in that moment, with dawn breaking over the Tyrrhenian Sea, and our wedding day ending in violence and truth, it was enough. We'd survived our first day as husband and wife. The question was how many more we'd get. 3 weeks into marriage, and I'd learned that being Mrs. Moretti meant living in a state of constant calculation. Every smile was strategy. Every conversation carried hidden meanings. Every gesture was watched, analyzed, weaponized by families looking for weakness. But I'd also learned that I was good at it. Better than good. Lorenzo had been right. My years surviving in the shadows had trained me perfectly for this world. I could read a room in seconds, identify alliances and enmities, know who was lying and who was merely afraid. "You're a natural," Carmela said one afternoon as we took tea in the garden. "The wives are already coming to you for advice. They're coming to me because I'm new and unthreatening." "You're unthreatening because you want them to underestimate you." She smiled over her cup. "That's smart. Your father had the same gift. People always thought he was simpler than he was. My father, the money launderer, the man with enough secrets to destroy empires." The key around my neck felt heavy. "Carmela," I said carefully, "the evidence my father hid. What exactly was in it? Financial records? Names of politicians on various payrolls, trafficking routes, photographs of indiscretions used for blackmail." She set down her cup. "Why do you ask?" "Because someone thinks I know where it is, and they're right." The admission hung between us like a loaded gun. Carmela went very still. "Explain." So I told her. About the key my mother had given me. About the storage unit I'd been paying for with money I could barely afford. About the boxes I'd never opened because opening them meant facing a past I'd tried to bury. "Lorenzo needs to know," Carmela said immediately. "I know. I'm going to tell him." I touched the key. "But first, I need to see what's actually there. What if it's nothing? What if my mother gave me this key to something meaningless, and I've been carrying around paranoia for 15 years? And If it's not nothing, then I need to decide what to do with it before anyone else knows it exists. Carmela studied me for a long moment. You've changed. 3 weeks ago, you would have told Lorenzo immediately. 3 weeks ago, I was still deciding if I could trust him. And now? Now I'm deciding if I can trust myself. I met her eyes. Your son married me because I saved your life, but he fell for me because I told him hard truths. If I'm going to keep being the woman he fell for, I need to know the whole truth before I share it. That's dangerous thinking, child. This is a dangerous world. I stood. Will you help me? Help you how? Get me into that storage unit without Lorenzo knowing, just for an hour. That's all I need. Carmela was quiet for so long I thought she'd refuse. Then she nodded. Tomorrow. Lorenzo has a meeting with the other families that will take most of the day. I'll arrange a car and tell security we're shopping. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. She stood, gripping my hands. If what you find destroys this family, I'll never forgive you, and neither will Lorenzo. I know. The storage facility was in a run-down part of Naples I barely recognized. Carmela waited in the car while I went inside, key clutched in my sweating palm. Unit 247, 3rd floor. The lock was stiff from years of neglect, but the key turned. Inside, boxes. Maybe a dozen of them, stacked against concrete walls. Nothing else. No furniture, no mementos, just cardboard boxes sealed with packing tape. I opened the first one. Photographs, hundreds of them. Men I recognized from news reports. Politicians, judges, police chiefs, in compromising positions. With prostitutes, with drugs, with each other. My stomach turned. The second box held ledgers, neat columns of numbers, dates, names, money flowing from one account to another, washed clean through legitimate businesses, shell corporations, offshore accounts, a paper trail that would take years to untangle. The third box made my hands shake. Documents, contracts, bills of lading for shipments that should never have existed. Manifests listing cargo that wasn't cargo at all. People, names, ages, countries of origin, women, mostly, some barely teenagers. Sold, transported, distributed like inventory. I was going to be sick. My father had documented everything. Every crime, every transaction, every soul destroyed by the machine he'd helped operate. And at the bottom of the box, a letter, addressed to me. My dearest Alara, if you're reading this, then I'm dead. Probably killed by the very men I've spent years serving. I deserve it. I told myself I was doing this for you and your mother, that the money I made laundering blood money would give you a better life. But the truth is simpler and uglier. I was good at it, and being good at something terrible is seductive. By the time I understood what I'd become, I was in too deep to escape. So I did the only thing I could. I documented everything, every crime, every name, every secret. I was going to use it to buy our freedom, to threaten the families with exposure unless they let us disappear. But I waited too long, and now it's too late for me. But maybe not for you. This evidence can destroy them all. Grimani, Moretti, Russo, all of them. Use it to protect yourself if you need to. Use it to bargain if you must. Or burn it and walk away. The choice is yours, my brilliant girl. I'm sorry I won't be there to see the woman you become, but I know you'll be extraordinary. All my love. Papa tears blurred the words. I read the letter 3 times before I could breathe again. My father had been a monster, but he'd tried, at the end, to protect me. And now I held his legacy in my hands. Enough evidence to topple the Moretti Empire, to destroy Lorenzo, to avenge my parents, or to protect the man I'd married. I sat in that cold storage unit, surrounded by proof of atrocities, and faced the hardest choice of my life. I returned to the car with one box, the most damning one. "Did you find what you were looking for?" Carmela asked. "Yes. And? And I need to talk to Lorenzo. Tonight. Alone." She must have heard something in my voice because she didn't argue, just nodded and told the driver to take us home. Lorenzo was in his study when I found him, reviewing contracts with that focused intensity he brought to everything. "Alara." He looked up, smile warming his features. "How was shopping?" I lied. I set the box on his desk. "We didn't go shopping. We went to a storage unit I've been keeping for 15 years. And I found this." His smile faded as he looked at the box, then back at me. "What is it?" "Open it." He did. I watched his expression shift from curiosity to shock to carefully controlled rage as he flipped through documents, photographs, ledgers. "Jesus Christ," he breathed. "This is everything. Every crime, every name, every secret. My father documented it all before your father killed him." I kept my voice steady. "Including the Moretti family's involvement in human trafficking." Lorenzo's hands clenched on the photographs. "We got out of that business 10 years ago. My father ran it for 2 decades before that. It's all there. Names, dates, shipping routes. Enough to put you in prison for life, even though you inherited a clean slate." "Why are you showing me this?" His eyes found mine, and in them I saw fear. Real, genuine fear. "You could have gone to the authorities, could have destroyed us and walked away clean." I could have. I moved around the desk, taking his hands. But I didn't. Because that evidence destroys everyone, Lorenzo. Every family my father worked for. If I turn it in, half of Naples burns, including innocent people who just happen to be born into this world. Including you. You're a Moretti now. "Including me," I agreed. "But that's not why I'm not using it." "Then why?" I took a breath. "Because I love you." The words hung in the air between us, fragile and fierce. "You love me," Lorenzo repeated, like he was testing the words. "I do. I don't know when it happened. Maybe when you taught me to shoot. Maybe when you told me hard truths instead of comfortable lies. Maybe when you looked at me like I was something precious instead of something broken." I squeezed his hands. "I love you, and I'm choosing you over revenge, over justice, over everything my father would have wanted." Lorenzo pulled me against him, burying his face in my hair. His hands shook against my back. "I don't deserve you," he said roughly. "My father killed your parents. My family profited from suffering. I've killed men, Alara. I've done terrible things." "I know." I pulled back to look at him. "But you also protected me, taught me, made me feel like I mattered for the first time in years. You're not your father, Lorenzo. You're trying to be better. Not hard enough if this still exists." He gestured to the box. "What do you want to do with it?" "I want to burn it." He went still. "What?" "I want to burn it all. Every photograph, every ledger, every piece of evidence. I want to destroy it so completely that no one can ever use it, not against you, not against anyone." I touched his face. "But I need you to promise me something first." "Anything. Promise me that the Morettis will never go back to that business, that you'll use your power to stop trafficking, not enable it, that you'll be better than your father was." "I promise." No hesitation. Absolute certainty. "I swear on my life, Alara. We're done with that business. Forever." "Then let's burn the past and build something new." We built a fire in the study's fireplace. fed my father's legacy into the flames page by page, photograph by photograph. Lorenzo held me as we watched it burn, his arms tight around my waist. "You gave up your only leverage," he said quietly. "The only thing that could have protected you if I ever turned on you." "I know. That's either the bravest thing I've ever seen or the stupidest. Probably both." I leaned back against him. "But I meant what I said. I love you. And love means trust. Real trust, not the kind backed up by blackmail material. I love you too." The words were rough, unpracticed. I didn't think I could, didn't think I was capable. But God, Alara, I love you so much it terrifies me. We watched the last page burn to ash. "No more secrets," I said. "No more lies between us." "No more secrets," he agreed. But even as I said it, even as I believed it, I couldn't shake the feeling that we'd just made a terrible mistake. That somewhere in the ashes of my father's evidence was something we'd needed. Something that would have protected us from what was coming. The attack came 2 weeks later, when we'd almost started to believe in safety. A coordinated strike. 3 cars, 15 men, military-grade weapons. They hit the estate at dawn when the guards were changing shifts, the 30 seconds of vulnerability that someone on the inside had sold them. I woke to gunfire. Lorenzo was already moving, pulling on pants, grabbing the gun from the nightstand. "Stay here," he ordered. "Lock the door behind me." Like hell. I was already dressing, the lessons he'd taught me flooding back. "We fight together, remember?" He looked like he wanted to argue, but another burst of gunfire cut him off. "Fine, but you stay behind me, and if I tell you to run, you run. Understood?" "Understood." We moved through the villa like ghosts, Lorenzo leading with his weapon raised. The sounds of fighting echoed through marble halls, shouts in Italian, screams, the wet sounds of combat. We found Carmela in the library, defended by Dante and 2 other guards. She had a gun in her hands and fire in her eyes. "About time," she said when she saw us. "They're trying to breach the East Wing." "Who?" Lorenzo demanded. "Russo's men. Don Salvatore is making his move." Of course. Don Salvatore, who'd warned me about truths and survival, who'd known about my father's evidence, who'd probably been waiting for us to destroy it before striking. "How many?" Lorenzo asked Dante. 15 outside, but boss," Dante's face was grim. "They've got someone inside. Someone who knows the estate layout." Before Lorenzo could respond, an explosion rocked the building. The East Wing, the same wing where our bedroom was, where I'd burned the evidence. "They're covering their tracks," I said, understanding flooding through me, "making sure no trace of the document survives. Or they're sending a message." Lorenzo pulled me close. "We need to get to the safe room." "No." I stepped away, my mind racing with terrible clarity. "That's what they expect. They'll trap us there and burn the whole villa. We need to attack." "Alara, I'm right and you know it." I grabbed a gun from one of the fallen guards, checked the magazine the way Lorenzo had taught me. "They think I'm soft, civilian, someone you'll hide and protect. Use that. Let me draw them out." "Absolutely not. Lorenzo." I touched his face, making him look at me. "Trust me, please." The war in his expression nearly broke me, the need to protect me warring with respect for my capability. Finally, he nodded. "Dante, take 3 men and secure the north corridor. Mama, you go to the panic room with the household staff. I'll take Alara and circle around through the wine cellar. We'll catch them in a crossfire." "No." Carmela's voice was steel. "I'm not hiding while my family fights. I've survived 40 years in this world by being underestimated. Let's use that." So we split up. Carmela with Dante, Lorenzo and me through the cellars. The sound of our footsteps echoed off stone walls as we descended into darkness. "When this is over," Lorenzo said quietly, "we're leaving Naples, finding somewhere they can't reach us." "There's nowhere they can't reach us." I checked around a corner, gun raised. "This is our world now. We fight or we die." "Then we fight." He pulled me into an alcove, kissing me hard and desperate. "But if it comes down to it, if you have to choose between saving me or saving yourself—" "I choose us both." "Alara, us both," I repeated. "Or I don't survive anyway." We emerged in the wine cellar to find 3 of Russo's men searching through the wreckage of boxes and bottles. Lorenzo took 2 with clean headshots before they even registered our presence. The 3rd swung his weapon toward us. I fired. The recoil kicked through my arms, but my aim was true. Center mass, just like Lorenzo had taught me. The man fell. I'd just killed someone. My hands shook, but there was no time for shock. Lorenzo was already moving, and I followed. We found them in the main hall. Don Salvatore himself, surrounded by his remaining men, holding a very calm Carmela at gunpoint. "Lorenzo," Salvatore called out, "I was hoping you'd make it. This isn't personal, you understand." "You're holding my mother. It's extremely personal." Lorenzo's gun never wavered. "Let her go." "Can't do that. She's my insurance." Salvatore smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to step down, hand over your territory, your businesses, your connections. In return, I let you and your lovely wife walk away, live out your lives somewhere far from here. And my mother stays with me to ensure your compliance." "No deal." "I suspected you'd say that." Salvatore's grip tightened on Carmela. "Which is why I have a backup plan." He nodded to one of his men, who raised a weapon toward me. Everything slowed down. I saw Lorenzo start to move, saw the calculation in his eyes. He could take the shot at Salvatore, but I'd die. Or he could protect me, and Carmela would die. An impossible choice. But Carmela made it for him. She drove her elbow back into Salvatore's ribs with vicious precision, twisting away from his grip. His shot went wild, plaster exploding from the ceiling. Lorenzo fired. Salvatore fell. Chaos erupted. Russo's remaining men scattered or fired back. Lorenzo pushed me behind a marble column, returning fire with deadly accuracy. I leaned out, taking my own shots. 1 man down. 2. My hands didn't shake anymore. Dante and his men poured in from the north corridor, catching Russo's forces in a crossfire exactly as Lorenzo had planned. It was over in minutes. Russo's men dead or surrendered. Salvatore bleeding out on marble floors stained red. Lorenzo pulled me against him, checking me over frantically. "Are you hurt? Did they touch you?" "I'm fine. I'm fine." I turned to Carmela, who was calmly retrieving a gun from one of the fallen. "Are you—" "I've survived worse." But her hands shook slightly as she straightened her clothes. "Though I'm getting too old for this dramatic nonsense." Lorenzo moved to Salvatore, kneeling beside the dying Don. "Why now? We had peace." Salvatore coughed, blood on his lips. "Your father made promises about what would happen when he died, that territories would be redistributed." He grabbed Lorenzo's collar with failing strength. "You broke those promises, built something different. Better, maybe, but different. So you decided to tear it down." "Someone had to." Salvatore's grip loosened. "Your wife's father, he knew all the old agreements, all the old sins. That evidence, it would have protected you, showed you who to trust. The evidence is gone." "I know. Watch the smoke from my car." A wet laugh. "Brave or stupid, burning your only leverage." Which was it? Both. Salvatore's eyes found me. She chose love over power. In this world, that usually means death. His hand fell away. But maybe you'll be different. He died with those words, and the war ended with him. The cleanup took days. Bodies removed, damage repaired, security overhauled. Lorenzo was ruthless in his purge. Anyone with even tangential connection to Russo was removed from positions of power. But he also made changes. The trafficking businesses that the Morettis had officially exited were now actively fought against. Lorenzo put resources into hunting down those operations, burning them to ash. "It won't bring your parents back," he said one night as we stood on the balcony overlooking the sea. "And it doesn't erase what my father did. But it's something." "It's more than something," I leaned against him. "It's choosing to be better. We still have enemies, families that will see this as weakness. Let them try." I turned in his arms. "We survived Grimani. We survived Russo. We'll survive whatever comes next." "When did you become so bloodthirsty?" But he smiled as he said it. "When I married a Mafia Don." I kissed him softly. "Besides, I've discovered I'm good at this, at seeing patterns, reading people, surviving in your world." "Our world," he corrected. "You're not just surviving anymore, Alara. You're thriving." He was right. In the weeks since the attack, I'd stepped into my role as Lorenzo's wife with new confidence. The other family's wives no longer saw me as a pretty accessory. They saw me as a force. Carmela noticed too. "You remind me of myself," she said one afternoon in the garden, "when I was young and still believed I could change things." "Did you? Change things?" "In small ways. I made sure our family didn't profit from the worst sins. I protected those I could." She took my hand. "But you, child, you're bolder than I ever was. Burning that evidence, fighting beside Lorenzo, demanding better from all of us. You might actually succeed where I failed." "At what?" "At making the Moretti name mean something other than fear." 3 months after our wedding, I discovered I was pregnant. The test sat on the bathroom counter, 2 pink lines that changed everything. Lorenzo found me staring at it, his reflection appearing in the mirror behind mine. "Is that—" "Yes." He was silent for so long I thought he was angry. Then his arms came around me, pulling me back against his chest. "A baby," he whispered against my hair. "Our baby. Are you happy?" I turned to see his face. His eyes were wet. Terrified, but yes, ridiculously happy. "Me too." I touched my still flat stomach. "What kind of world are we bringing a child into?" "A better one." His hand covered mine. "We'll make it better, together." "Together," I agreed. 6 months later, on a spring morning when Naples bloomed with flowers and promise, I gave birth to a daughter. We named her Anna, after my mother. Lorenzo held her with a gentleness I'd never seen in him. This man who'd killed without hesitation, now cradling our daughter like she was made of starlight. "She's perfect," he breathed. "She's ours," I corrected. Carmela stood in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. "She looks like you, Alara. The hair, the eyes." "Good." Lorenzo kissed our daughter's forehead. "Then maybe she'll be smarter than me." "And kinder than me," I added. "Impossible." He looked at me over Anna's head. "You're the kindest person I know, even after everything." "I'm not kind. I'm practical." "You forgave me for my father's sins. You burned evidence that could have destroyed us. You fought beside me when you could have run." He leaned over, kissing me softly. "That's not practical, amore. That's love." Maybe he was right. Maybe love and practicality were the same thing in this world. Maybe choosing to build a future instead of drowning in the past was both. And so here we are, darlings, where it all led. One bullet, one choice, one impossible love story written in blood and silk. I saved Carmela Moretti's life and lost my own in the process. But I gained something far more precious: a family, a purpose, a love that defied every rule I'd ever known. Lorenzo still watches me like I might disappear, still holds me too tightly, loves me too fiercely, protects me too aggressively. But I wouldn't have it any other way. Because in this dark, beautiful, terrible world we've built together, obsessive love is the only kind that survives. We buried the past, my parents, his father, all the old sins and older debts. We built something new on that blood-soaked foundation. It's not perfect. We still fight. We still face enemies who want to destroy what we've built. We still make choices that haunt us. But we make them together. And that, my loves, is everything. I took a bullet for his mother. Lorenzo Moretti refused to let me go. And somewhere in the space between those two truths, we found something worth more than revenge, more than justice, more than safety. We found each other. If you stayed till the end of this blood-soaked romance, you're my kind of darkness lover. Subscribe for more Mafia tales, where love and violence dance together, because sometimes the most dangerous thing a woman can do is choose to stay. Drop a comment telling me, would you have burned the evidence or kept it as insurance? I'm dying to know which choice calls to your soul. Until next time, darlings, remember that the most powerful weapon in any Mafia wife's arsenal isn't a gun. It's the courage to love a monster and demand he become something better. Ciao. End.